Good evening, everybody, or morning if you're in some other remote location. This is Preston Poulter here with Pocket Jacks Comics, and I'm joined by my two wonderful judges of the Pitchstream contest, as well as the entire Comics Gate Expand the Universe contest. We have Vicky.
Hello, everybody.
And Zombie.
Hello.
There we go. Okay, so there have been a number of questions about how the contest is going to work. So this was kind of the structure I came up with, and let me know what you think. What I imagine is I want to see somebody who's got a finished script that is good, that has a good concept, and they've had plenty of follow through on it. So here's what we're doing. You're going to come in, you're going to pitch your idea. You've already needed to have created a page on the wiki, and so if you come in and you pitch your idea, then we know you're in the contest. And if it's an idea where I'm like, okay, this is just not going to fly, like people are not gonna want to work with this character, then you may have to go back and start over. But for those who I'm like, me and the other two judges like, that's an idea, that's pretty good, it's got some potential, and there could be many competitors, and that's fine. We go, okay, these people, yes, we want to see scripts on. And then in the upcoming weeks, here on the Wednesday script show, hopefully people will come back and they'll start presenting pages like, here's like the first 10, or I'm sure I'll have some notes, as well as the other judges. Hopefully I'll be able to attend a number of those script sessions, and then the next 10 pages, and then when we kind of winnow it down, I imagine it's kind of a funnel of stages, and then once we get to the final, I imagine it's probably going to be like 2 or 3 people who have like finished scripts that have been kind of approved concepts, and then we'll just decide who the winner is, and we'll kind of go from there. But I'm figuring that process to go from start to finish will probably take anywhere between 6 weeks or more. So hopefully it'll drive plenty of views and content here for the channel. But that's more or less what I was thinking. Any feedback on that?
Well,
sounds good.
All right, Vicky liked it. Zombie, what do you think?
Yeah, fine.
Okay. All right, John, is that good?
Yeah, no, that's kind of what I thought. That's kind of what I thought.
Exactly. Yeah, Larry, what do you think?
it's good.
Okay. All right, good. And Moby likes it. All right, cool.
Well, me, I think, man, they should have the script finished, or at least 50 to 70% done.
I have an outline done, and
Right.
I probably could have about 10 pages ready by next week. That's my goal.
All right, well,
Awesome. All right, so there we go. We've outlined it. By the way, John, just FYI, the Cinestate. You remember I told you to talk to Cinestate a while ago?
Yeah.
Like virtually everybody at Cinescape recently got fired. So if you're interested, obviously you would probably have to, but if you're still chasing the movie dream, you should probably contact Cinestate and put your application in. So because there was much bloodletting in the Dallas version of Hollywood Studios. All right, fair enough. Moving on. Okay. All right. So who wants to go first here? We got John, we got Larry, and we got Moby. Who wants to go first? First person to speak up gets it.
Come on.
I'll go.
Okay.
All right.
I'll be the guinea pig since nobody wants to take the slings and arrows.
Okay. All right. Then I'm going
You guys must not have faith in your projects.
Exactly. All right. So I'm gonna. All right. Moby, Larry, should I mute you, or just don't heckle the presenters? Is that good?
I can mute myself. That's
Okay,
fine.
all right,
Yeah.
there we go. Okay, all right, fair enough. No,
Mute them. It should be one at a time, and we should have some sort of time limit too, as we
Okay,
said
of course,
before.
of course, of course. All right, so hold on. So for the all right, so I'm gonna. Okay, here we go. So now it's just John and the three judges. Here we are in this nice intimate setting. There will absolutely be a time limit. So the proposal was you pitched for 5 minutes, and then we do like a 5-minute question and answer. Does that sound about right?
Sure.
Okay.
Sounds good.
Okay. So first, before we get started, which page should I go to on the wiki?
It's called Zoe, the Wizard's Daughter.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
All righty.
We the Wizard's Daughter. Okay, so let me share this here. Or if you want to, you can share the page, but either one. But
Oh, go ahead.
okay, all right. So
I'm not
here
going to
I
be reading from it. I'm just going to be talking kind of off the cuff.
am. Okay.
I don't have a script, so hopefully you'll have to
Okay.
forgive me for if I have any ums and ahs.
Okay, no, that's going to happen. All right, here we go. I have pulled up Zoe the Wizard's Daughter, and time is starting. Go ahead.
So this was a older idea that I had that I thought would kind of work when you were talking about the shared universe. It's a general concept is basically the timeless story of good and evil. It is personified through our main character, Zoe, and her sister, named Lucy. And basically, they are immortal daughters of an interdimensional traveler. They have existed on this earth since basically mankind started, and they will exist until the end of time.
Okay.
They kind of represent the personification of good and evil, and they kind of can work in pretty much any type of story, which is why I thought it would work for this. So not particularly in my story. I have a short little story that I want to tell about the two sisters, and basically their more or less fight for the love of a man. But that kind of idea can be translated through all kinds of stories and in all kinds of times. This particular story takes place in kind of a Hellenistic Middle Ages. Basically, it's an alternative universe where Rome never came to power. So this is kind of like, think Greek, but if Greek kind of remained the power structure 1,000 years, 2,000 years later than they actually did.
Okay.
So that's kind of the setting for this particular story, but it kind of focuses on, or I should say the themes kind of focus on, doing the right thing. And you can kind of tell this kind of like a universal type story with it.
Okay.
It can be a character struggling with any kind of major decision, and these kind of characters can kind of present and kind of push your main character in one direction or the other. And that was kind of the idea behind this kind of story.
So tell me about the story.
So this particular story, so basically, this particular story is basically about a group of, I guess we call them rogues, because that's kind of what I summarized them. But basically, Zoe's sister, Lucy, has kind of established herself as the head of the world government religion. So there's kind of this one world religion government thing with her at the center of it. And there is this man, Adam, who is trying to basically fight against. Is basically trying to fight against. Adam's trying to fight. Sorry, the chat distracted me.
Don't let the chat distract.
Just ignore the chat.
Ignore the chat.
So Adam is basically trying to fight against this world structure, and Zoe is kind of helping him along the way. And
so Adam is our protagonist?
Yes, Adam is the protagonist. So I guess you could say Zoe is the main character, Adam is the protagonist. It's one of those kind of deals.
All right.
Because Adam is So he's kind of fighting against this power structure, and Zoe's kind of helping him alongside him. She helps him do different things, and in the very beginning of the story, they actually steal about, probably about a couple dozen pounds of gold from the temple. So that's kind of like our inciting incident where they basically knock over some gold from the temple, and that kind of sets the story in motion, which eventually, as it progresses, we kind of, it kind of deals with doing the right thing for the right reasons, which can be a lot tricky a lot of times. And
Who were they opposing?
Lucy and her army.
Okay. All right.
So
Evil.
it's basically
Evil army of darkness kind of thing.
Yeah, kind of like that. It's a simple concept.
Okay.
It's a very simple black and white concept. There's not going to be if you're looking for a dark, story with moral ambiguity, you're not really going to get it.
So is Zoe like Maid Marian to Adam's Robin Hood against Lucian's Prince John? Is that what I'm looking at?
Yes, actually, Robin Hood was actually a thematic basis that I borrowed from for this.
Okay, all right. 5 minutes are up. Now let's go to question and answer. Vicky, John, what do you got?
I think she's really cute.
She is pretty cute. I noticed that.
Yeah.
Thank you.
She's
I was
very
going
cute.
for super cute.
Yeah.
Which is convenient because she's immortal, and you would hate to go through life like ugly. Right? I mean, if you got to go through life forever, might as well be super hot and flaunt it.
I was reading the wiki instead of just looking at the picture while he was talking.
Okay.
So
was the wiki more informative?
It added to,
Okay.
because he goes into a little bit more detail about the, Lucy.
All right, let me go ahead and fire off my question here. Like, if I say, okay, John, I want you to write up a script, what is the outline of the story going to be?
So the outline of the story is Zoe falling in love with a human.
Okay.
And how that
is it human Adam or is it a different human?
Yeah, with Adam.
Okay, all right, sure.
So you know what?
Okay.
We're gonna do. I don't know if I want to do spoilers. I hate doing spoilers, but I guess I should.
What is the conflict? What is the conflict that will be touched upon?
The central conflict is the conflict between Zoe and Lucy.
Zoe and Lucy. Okay.
That is the central conflict. The central conflict between Zoe and Lucy, between good and evil, for the hearts and soul of mankind.
Got it. Okay.
Adam represents mankind. That's even where his namesake came from. It came from the Garden of Eden story.
Okay.
So Adam kind of represents humanity. Zoe represents good, and Lucy represents evil. So I guess to summarize the entire story, it would be the battle of good and evil that goes on in the heart and mind of every human being, and it is personified in these characters over the course of this story.
All right. Zombie.
What's a celestial?
I don't know. I just made it up.
In Pathfinder, that would be an angel.
But he's not Pathfinder. So also, do they have any weaknesses? Because it seems like they're utterly indestructible. So how do you kill one of these creatures?
Well, there's only 2 of them that exist in the entire world.
Right. So what weaknesses do they have?
Zoe's weakness is darkness and evil, and Lucy's weakness is light and good.
So only Zoe and Lucy can.
Well, that's their opposite. But what's their like if they're fighting or whatever? How do you defeat them, capture them? What's their kryptonite?
In part of the story, Lucy chops Zoe's head off, but she just keeps on going like it doesn't matter.
So that's not a weakness. And what is the overlap with Nimrod? I noticed originally you used Tubal-Cain and now you use Nimrod, but you haven't defined Nimrod as your own character. You're using the, for want of a better term, biblical version. So what's the overlap with the sort of Genesis era biblical stuff?
It is based on it borrows themes from Christian mythology. Lucy,
so is Lucy Semiramis or something, or what?
Lucy is Lucifer, Zoe is Christ.
Right.
Adam represents humanity. That whole backstory part was really just a way of basically saying that these characters have existed since the beginning of time, and Lucy has been corrupting humans from the beginning of time, and Zoe has been inspiring good and righteousness since the beginning of time. That was really all I was going for in that.
Sounds more like Mormon mythology than Christian mythology, since Lucy and Zoe are siblings. It's a bit like that weird Mormon thing about Jesus and Lucifer being siblings. On that basis, I think because there's no hazard, it's muddled, there's no real weaknesses, and therefore pretty dull because they can't be defeated. There's no real risk for them. And it's a very, very crude morality play as described. I would reject this in its current form.
All right.
For what that's worth.
Yeah, we are at the 10-minute mark. What I'm going to do is I added this to a sheet, and then at the end of the stream, I'm gonna we'll powwow with all the judges, and we'll say, okay, who do we want to see pages from? And who didn't? And I will let you know, John. But
okay, no problem.
Thank you for coming on.
Yeah, I'm gonna jump out, and I'm just gonna listen along in the in the live stream.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
Yep.
All right. Next. All right. So we got Larry and we got Moby. Who do we want to hear from next?
Is that alarm going off really loud to you guys? An alarm's going off outside.
Now that you say that, I can hear it, but yeah.
Now you hear it? Okay, I'll stay muted most of the time. That's all right.
All right. I'm going to go with someone's trying to enter. The studio is full. I understand. Okay.
I'll do it.
All right, Moby, here we are. We're going to go with Moby.
All right. Well, I'm going to set it up like a trailer, so I'm about to, well, you know the characters.
Yeah, so. Let me pull up Turbine here real quick. Turbine. Boom. Okay, here we go. We got Turbine. I'm going to pull up the artwork. Definitely helps. All right. So you got 5 minutes starting now. Go ahead.
Well, all right. I'm going to give y'all, like a film trailer, Okay. Give me 1 second. All right. 1, 2, 3. When President Trump has been kidnapped by an unknown man, ex-military men that were, let me cut it up. Basically, President Trump has been kidnapped, and former soldiers that were dishonorably discharged because they were framed have come back to save the president, and the President Trump is being held ransom for $1 billion by a terrorist known as the Viper. And this part around, I'm about to start sharing the images of the characters, but basically President Trump has been kidnapped. His vice president is Hillary Clinton. And I'm about to start showing you all the characters. Give me 1 minute.
Okay. Should I share your screen?
Yeah, you can share my screen.
We'll stop doing that then.
Am I supposed to press allow? Give me 1 minute.
All right.
Yes. So the screen, mine is being shared.
Is it? I don't.
Let me
I
one
don't
minute. I don't see my screen.
see it. All right.
You're better off just telling us because this is all eating into your time.
Oh, all right. Yeah. Basically, President Trump is being held hostage by a terrorist. And basically, this is inspired by the G.I. Joe. So there's going to be a lot of action, and some propaganda. But basically, at heart, it's American heroes that were taken away from serving their country, getting a second chance. And they've been reassembled by one of their crew members, and a suit has been built called the Turbine. And the suit is basically what if you put Iron Man in the G.I. Joe's world,
Okay.
So it's going to be packed with a lot of action. And as the story goes on, it's going to be proven that, maybe Trump isn't kidnapped. Maybe this is about setting Hillary up to be the fall guy for potentially holding her more to his morale, that you have to kowtow to what I say, because I could say you were the one that caused me to be kidnapped, but most of all, the series is about, saving Trump. And then as that proceeds, they go after the terrorist named Viper, and it starts exposing eco-terrorism and basically what's going on abroad, and a lot of war, a lot of action. I wish I could share the screen. Dang, man. But basically, for the most part, I have all the character designs. In my world, Hillary is dressed like a SJW. Half her haircut is cut off. She's fully engulfed into the SJW lifestyle. And she basically has given up in a way. She's become an alcoholic because she has to serve Trump to be bipartisan as his vice president, And she's, this is the closest she'll ever get to being a president, She might as go out as the vice president instead of nothing. But most of all, it's basically G.I. Joe meets Iron Man meets, some politics, but a lot of humor and fun. And as it stands, I've written the whole issue. There's 80 pages. I wrote it to be somewhat like a film, so it all sets up. It finishes in issue 1, ends with a cliffhanger, and then the series can go on. But I wanted to prove to myself that I could finish an 80-page script and have it. Because, what is it, Preston? 1 page is a minute, so 80 pages is about an hour and 20 minutes worth in film time. So I just made sure that I wrote 80 minutes, and it also focuses on, one soldier who was thought to be dead that returns as an assassin. It's basically a lot of action,
Yeah. All right, so here we are at 5 minutes. So there was a question, a comment from the chat that kind of is something I'm thinking of. Like, I'm a little uncomfortable with making it Hillary Clinton, Donald Trump, because those figures might be dated pretty quickly. In like 2 or 3 years, we might look back and go, those two. So, I don't know, like. What do you think we're really adding by making it specifically those two?
Well, I mean, it's never been done where you got the president's a Republican, and it's something that adds. It is real. Yeah, Trump is the president. Hillary was running against him, but it adds that thing that never happened. So when people read it, they automatically believe it's fiction. So even though Trump's presidency could end, the fact that you have a series where Trump's the president, Hillary's his vice president, and all the stuff that ensues, it's going to capture the people's interest, even if he's out of office. It's kind of like those old series set in the 40s where, Edgar Hoover, whoever was the president, still the president. My thing is, in today's age, there's not enough where they show both sides. We're too trapped on bash this one person. And, there's not enough where, okay, let's see Trump's perspective, then let's see Hillary's perspective. But at the same time, the series is satire. It's basically a mixture of G.I. Joe meets Mad TV. I want that action, but that humor.
Okay.
That type.
Now, so some people in the chat are making Antonio Bryce. Are you planning to insert yourself into the story?
Oh, me? No, I'm not.
Okay.
Not involved at all.
All right.
No propaganda. It's it's like a cereal box, propaganda free.
There you go. Zombie, Vicky.
Is there only one suit of armor, or is there a team of people wearing the armor?
Oh, the armor. Well, for the as it starts, there'll be one suit, but later on, because what I'm doing, I mean, I could spoil it, because we're selling it to the people. But the
You don't
way
have to expand. I'm just a simple question. So
Oh,
there's
yeah.
one suit. So there's one suit of armor. Does he have a team with him?
Yes. Oh man, I'm telling
And are the other people in the team superheroes, or do they have different powers, or are they more just supporting troops?
Oh well, it's basically it's kind of like one's a samurai, one's a sniper, but it's all in the vein of like, what if every character was a semi Jason Bourne meets Captain America? They're not too powerful, they're not punching people through walls, but they're running on walls. They're shooting a gun from 2 miles and killing somebody. You still have that unbelievable ability, but without it being a superhero. My problem with superhero books now, they've become so powerful, you as the reader can't get invested because their lives are not at risk. So, I don't want to do the whole superpower thing. He wears a suit, but he takes too much damage. He's going to start bleeding internally, and the suit has a limit. It's not Iron Man where just, fly towards a damn spaceship and survive the explosion. You the reader just lose that tension, when they're too powerful.
And who's the villain or the sort of antagonist? Are they superpowered as well?
Oh yeah. Well, the main villain is Viper, and what happened is that he was in charge of an eco development where he was trying to help the animals and stuff, and a bomb was dropped by the US, and he swore vengeance on the world for forsaking nature. It's basically, what if an eco-terrorist had weapons? And another thing is, he's infused his DNA with plants, so he's stronger than the average person, and he's actually bred his own soldiers that are a combination of plant and human. That way I have a lot of what they call minions. That way I have a lot of expendable characters without needing to explain much. So he's kind of strong. He has a healing factor, but it isn't Wolverine. It'll take the guy a month or two to regrow an arm or something like that.
And he has his own red shirts.
Yeah,
That's what you're saying.
He's got his own soldiers, his own troops, and basically, his goal is to enslave, return the earth to nature by any means necessary. Even if that means, growing a highly evolved poison ivy type plant that feeds on people. It doesn't matter. The guy wants to return nature, and hates humanity for what humans have done to nature and him when he was trying to help the world.
All right. And that is 10 minutes, Moby. Thanks very much for coming in. And we're gonna discuss this here at the end, all the judges, and I will let you know.
All right. Thank you.
All right. Thanks so much.
Moby.
All right.
All right. And
That alarm finally stopped. So yay.
All right, cool. And then I'm having to kick people, not because I don't like them, but because other people are trying to get in and like cap 10. So don't be offended if I kick you after your presentation is ended.
Yeah, I'm getting DMs on Twitter.
Yeah. All right. Next we have Larry Holder.
Hello. Hey, Larry.
Hello. Hey. All right. So Larry, what is the page I should find here on the wiki?
I am putting it into the chat for you.
Okay. You can't just tell me?
I can, but
okay.
It's Samael Urbis.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah.
Yeah, all you'd had to do is say Sam, and the search thing found it. So
cool. Yeah.
So looks pretty good. I will share my screen so that other people can see that. Boom. There we go. There's the artwork.
Yeah.
Is that you drew that?
No, that's George Alexopoulos.
Oh, neat.
Yeah.
Nice.
I'm glad.
He
Okay.
very, very graciously got me a concept piece before the show, even though I was super late. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. 5 minutes. You ready?
Okay, let's do it. Okay, so my character, Samuel Urbis, will star in his own comic called Primal Chaos. He is a fallen angel. He was part of Lucifer's rebellion. And as he was being thrown into the pit of hell, he fell through a fabric of creation and was taken to a place called the Chaos Realm, where he came into contact with an entity known as Chaos, which is the antithesis to creation, the opposite of God, if you will. And Chaos infuses him with his energy and sends him to Earth to damage God's creation, essentially.
Okay.
As he gets to Earth, he starts, causing some destruction and whatnot, and he kills a young girl, and the innocent blood sort of, what's the word I'm looking for? Sort of snaps him out of it, I guess, for lack of a better term. And he doesn't quite remember how he got there or anything like that. So over time, he sort of realizes what's going on, and he decides he's not going to do Chaos's bidding. And he thinks he can get himself redeemed by doing good deeds. So he starts going after evil people, basically.
Okay.
So, and in that quest to stop evil people, he comes across these people called the Titans, which were also agents of Chaos that were sent to Earth, but they've taken human form and worked their way into power positions around the world. So essentially, the book would be about him tracking them down and trying to stop them. Yeah.
Okay.
That's the basic premise I'm working off of. So.
All right. Sounds pretty good.
Yeah.
So he is kind of a fallen angel seeking redemption. Is that what I'm getting?
Essentially, even though, like, technically, since he was an angel, he can't really be redeemed. But in his mind, since he's kind of twisted around, that's his goal. So, yeah.
All right. And is this what was your ideal age range?
Mature.
Sure.
Definitely.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
I think I forgot to put that on there, but. Yeah.
And all right. So, what is the central conflict of the story?
The central conflict is him trying to stop the Titans. The Titans they're not really interested in. They're kind of disobeying Chaos as well. They were supposed to undo the creation of the Earth, but they decided they didn't want to do that, and they're just trying to work their way into ruling the Earth, essentially.
Okay.
So yeah. But since he's on this quest to destroy all evil, he decides, yes, I'm going to take these people out because they're causing a lot of pain and destruction and whatnot. So,
is this inspired by Soul Reaver?
It's got that kind of. Not exactly, no.
Okay.
It does have that sort of story behind it, but I was thinking more in maybe like Spawn terms, but I wanted to change it around so it wasn't quite the same as Spawn.
Okay.
Yeah.
Is this always his appearance?
What's that?
Is
yeah,
this always
that's what he looks like. Yeah. So he was pretty beaten up when he was thrown down. He had his wings ripped off, and he had one of his hands removed. So when he activates his Chaos energy, he can manipulate his arm into weapons, basically. So it's quite a painful process. Kind of rips him apart every time. He's got a little bit of a healing factor, but he's not immortal anymore. So he can be harmed by conventional weapons, and it does hurt him quite a bit. So, yeah.
All right. General questions?
I don't really have any. That was very clear. It explained it all. are the Titans human-sized and human appearance so that they can fit in with human society, or are they extraordinary and sort of gigantic?
No, they take on normal human form, but they can transform into these sort of monstrosities. That's going to be part of the fun for the battles and whatnot.
Okay. Good.
All right. Michael, so we have the Titans whom he's battling, I guess. But there's this other entity or whatever concept called chaos. Yeah. Which is evil. What's the relationship between the Titans and chaos?
The Titans were their parents were created by chaos and sent to Earth. Essentially, this is a combination of Christian theology and Greek mythology. Is kind of what I was going for. Yeah. So I'm taking the literal characters from Greek and Christian theology and sort of translating them into something. So yeah.
So is there a relationship between Titans and chaos that goes beyond familial? Like I understand that the Titans descended, but is chaos still active in the world?
He can't actually enter the world. He's sort of in his own realm.
Okay.
He's sort of locked away. Sort of like gods in heaven. But
he like whispers in the darkness kind of thing.
Essentially, yeah.
Okay. And he whispers to the Titans, but the Titans don't always listen.
They don't listen, no.
Okay.
Yeah. Right. Okay. He's not really a physical entity per se either. So.
And how is good going to be personified? I mean,
that's a good question. Yeah, there are the Greek gods, which I wrote into the description there. Sure. They were sort of knights in the past, and they were given power by God per se, and they were sort of taken as gods by the people at the time. So those powered up people still exist, so they'll be there. And of course there's the actual angels as well, who are going to interact with the world as well. Okay. So yeah.
All right, so you're going to have angels and coming down and saying God wants you to do this kind of stuff.
Yeah.
All right, fair enough.
Basically. And of course they're all going to be sort of against him at first, because he's sort of on neither side at this point, right. As far as they're concerned anyway. So okay.
All right.
Yeah.
Any other questions?
No, I don't have any.
No, it was very clear. Very clear.
All right, Larry. Well, thanks for stopping in.
Great. Thanks.
All right, cool.
Thanks, Larry. See you later.
Yeah, I'll jump out here.
All right. So next we got, I'm just looking through who we got in the waiting room. All right. We got Darth. We got Thomas. We got DeWolf. I see Mecha Ziploc, Tony S, and Flying Fox Pro. Who's next?
Alphabetically.
Pick one at random.
Pick one. All right. Alphabetically. Then I should go with Darth, because that's DA, which is before DeWolf, which is D. So here we go. Welcome, Darth. How are you?
Hey, what's up, guys? How you doing?
All right.
Hey, Darth.
And I know your character is actually I forgot.
Isadora and the Immortal Chains. Yeah.
And we have another George Alexopoulos commission. Well, he was cleaning up on this contest.
Yes, he is. Yes, he is. I mean, you referred him, said it, and he actually responded to your tweet saying, "Yeah, I'll do these." And yeah, he was kind enough to do it for me. Gave me a decent rate. I mean, my final vision for the book, it's going to look a little different from his art style, but it's still beautiful, and this is still going to be like a pin-up and something that I'll still offer up exclusively for it.
All right, you got 5 minutes to pitch. Go ahead.
Sure. So the comic and the title character of the project is called Isadora and the Immortal Chains. The basic setting of the world is contemporary, and the genre is something I like to call Lovecraftian dark heroverse. I'm drawn upon the expansive Lovecraft mythos, centering on a figure known as the King in Yellow. For those who aren't familiar, it was created actually by Robert W. Chambers. It was from a play in book form entitled The King in Yellow. But then Lovecraft ended up picking up on it and using it in his world as well. So it's an expansive mythos with Lovecraft, anyone is familiar with it, and it's an ever-evolving one. There's constantly people adding to the mythos and growing to it. So I figured I wanted to throw my hat into the ring with this as well, with this unique character that I'm creating for this mythos. The story story circles around the character of Isadora. She's a young Roman woman meant to die during the eruption of Mount Vesuvius in Pompeii. But through a series of events, she's transported to Carcosa, the homeworld of the King in Yellow. Here she's placed into servitude to the king, and as his herald and bearer of the yellow sign, she's tasked to find souls to enrapture with the sign. Souls are trapped forever in Carcosa, because basically the old ones, the way I have them set up, they're kind of like a Galactus level kind of entity, to where they're there. Humans are kind of irrelevant to them, like bugs are to us. They just go about their business, do things, and usually what's going on with humans are no concern to them, no more concerned than what is going on to a fly flying around our head. But they do feed on souls, and that's what I'm adding to this mythos. And instead of whereas Galactus there's one, these are multiple old ones, and they all have their own means and ways to do things. Yeah, so she's placed in servitude, but then she ends up finding a way to put in the King in Yellow, like in hibernation, like suspended animation after 2,000 years of being his herald. So when she does this, she decides to use the powers the way she sees fit. The sign's hers now, and she can do what she wants with it. And she decides to try to do some good for her former home world, because she was a human. It still technically is. It's just the yellow sign and the immortal chains and everything she has have made her immortal. And when I say immortal, I don't want people to think like she's just indestructible. The chains that she has are what are make her immortal. They're part of her power. And a lot of her power comes from the yellow sign that she carries. Two things that can be taken away from her. The immortal chains aren't something that just like any human can break, but when she's fighting forces of other old ones and other supernatural beings, they do have that strength of power to somehow be able to get to those chains or break them. And if they do, she does lose her immortality. And if she loses the yellow sign, she only can come to Earth during the waning and waxing gibbous, during that 2-week period of the moon phase. So if she loses the yellow sign, doesn't get it before that ends. She's now can't go back. Her power is completely gone. The Yellow King will wake up, and all hell basically will break loose. So there is some struggle with that as well. So basically now she's on Earth, and her whole method here now is to try to fight forces of other old ones who are trying to open up gates and bring the old ones fully into Earth and just cause devastation. But at the same time, still keep steady flow of souls going out to them so they don't turn their eyes towards the Earth.
What does she want?
What she wants is that balance. She knows that the old ones are beings that cannot really be stopped. I do want to maintain that when it comes to the Lovecraftian mythos. I don't want them to be thought of as creatures that can be defeated. They're beings of power that just can't be stopped. So best you can do is hope to contain them and hope not to turn their eyes fully towards the Earth. So she still has this, feeling that she wants to help humanity. Because it was taken away from her for so long. So she wants to stop the old ones from entering, because there are agents of the old ones, the cultists and other otherworldly agents of old ones that are on Earth trying to open up the gates and make the old ones enter. So she's trying to prevent that from happening, from destroying humanity. But at the same time, she understands there's still evil in humanity, and she might as well destroy them and send them to the old ones and keep the conveyor belt going as well, so you say, so they don't notice that something's going on.
Yeah. All right. So she more or less wants to stop end times, kind of thing.
Stop end times, yeah, because I mean, when you get to Lovecraftian stuff, that's usually what it ends up being, is always end times. One way or another, there's always agents and machinations going on to try to bring the old ones in to stop the end times, or create the end times, if you will.
All right. Over the, does she have any special focus or any special person she's looking after?
Looking after
any other characters that she's going to be interacting with, I guess.
Yeah. I mean, are we talking antagonists, or are we talking about like allies?
All of it. Yeah.
Okay. Well, as far as allies, I'm going to have her, because the concept I have up is kind of like how, if you think about the element of the Holy Trinity in Christianity, where you have that consubstantiality, where God and the Son and the Holy Spirit are the same but separate. I'm kind of doing the same thing, but I'm calling it dualities, where you have the old ones who are kind of ambivalent and oblivious to what's actually going on, and then they have their dualities, which they are one and the same of, but also separate entities that are kind of mortal and are on Earth and they're like their duality of the old one on Earth. I'm going to have Nyarlathotep, which is going to be like kind of this intriguing character that plays this middleman, to where he's intrigued by Isadora, but he also is basically duality for an old one, and they don't really care. So he's going to be this weird kind of ally with her. It's kind of helping her, but at the same time messing with her at the same time. As far as an antagonist for this initial series, my main antagonist is going to be Shub-Niggurath and her duality, which is called Tayog.
Okay, but like every one you're mentioning is basically a god. Is there anyone, any little mortal people she's gonna have? Like,
yeah. There's going to be, not named, but there's thousands of cultists.
Okay.
That are cultists of all the other ones.
But they're not major characters. Is what I'm saying. They're not.
No. The major characters are the ones that I named.
Okay.
Now, again, the dualities are gods, but not gods.
Okay.
Because they're dualities, so they are the old one, but they're not the old one. Their power and scope is limited. On kind of like, again, I keep pointing to Christianity, not because I care about Christianity, but because it makes sense in the thing. When we think about Jesus Christ, he was God, but at the same time, he was still mortal. He could still be killed. He could still be hurt. He could still, he was flawed and stuff like that. So these dualities of the old ones are similar. They're still kind of mortal, even though they're powered and they're enhanced, but they're not as powerful as their duality of the old one. Okay. So you have those, and you have the cultists, which are just normal humans, and the cultists are going to have powers and magic, just like she does, to fight. So she's going to have different levels of it. Then there's also otherworldly creatures, like in the first issue, I have the Myogs, which are like alien beings for Shub-Niggurath, and they're like crustacean-like creatures that are just about in the same power level as her, as far as battling out.
Okay. Questions?
You asked my question.
Which one? There was a lot.
Have you ever read The King in Yellow?
I did. I read it a long time ago. I forgot it. I started to brush up on it again last year. Basically, it circles around these three characters. There's two men and a woman. And they find an item in there, and he basically goes insane. And with the angle I have with Isadora, the yellow sign, basically one of the powers of it is called insanity induction.
So what do you see the yellow sign as being?
In this, it's a physical item. It's a physical item.
Right.
I have it like as a pendant.
And what are the chains?
The chains are chains that are on her that basically are multi-purpose. They signify her servitude to the King in Yellow as his herald and bearer of the yellow sign, but they also give her immortality, her intangibility, invisibility, enhanced strength, and dexterity. So they're a huge part of what her powers are. And they're what basically bind her to Carcosa to be his herald.
Right. And so there's no real supporting cast, like, people that she knows who work at the local diner and,
no,
a well-meaning
not
policeman.
Level, no. She pretty much is in... she's pretty much a resident of Carcosa, and she'd only will come to Earth in service of the King in Yellow for whatever he wanted done or machinations that were happening there. So she doesn't have any friends on Earth. Now, again, as time goes on and this becomes a series, and she's going to become more comfortable being there more often, I can envision her finding a mortal. Like I was thinking actually in the first episode when I was writing. With the police, that was going to be a detective. That was going to be, because you see a lot of that in Lovecraftian stuff, where you see detective investigating stuff, trying to get to the depths of it. So I was planning on having further on the issues where there's a detective that's investigating it, and they may end up having this friendship kind of frenemy thing going on with this, where this gets their eyes open to what this greater world is.
Fair enough.
All right, we're pretty much at 10 minutes. You've got a few seconds left. Is there anything else you wanted to add, or anything we missed?
That was it. I'd rather have questions. Anyone else have questions?
Cool. No. So
I think you need to reread The King in Yellow if you're basing a character so closely on Chambers' work. Because,
I'm not placing it closely on it. Remember, I'm using the mythos as a backdrop, and the mythos is ever evolving. I'm still making this something original. There's loose basis on some of these characters, but this is not a direct adaptation or sequel to The King in Yellow. I'm using.
I think you've confused The King in Yellow and Hasta to be honest. But anyway,
no, I haven't, because there's actually in the mythos.
You really have. But anyway, that's your choice. Thanks.
Okay. I mean, again, I don't want this to be confrontational. I mean, I'm writing a story which is there's a basics and some mythos in it, but it's still an original story. And if you want to, argue about what is Lovecraftian and exactly how it should be, that's a different conversation entirely.
I'm not arguing what it should be. You're citing references, and it's clear you haven't researched the book.
No.
King in Yellow.
I wasn't citing references.
You need to do more research if you're going to refer to Chambers' work. It's quite different from Lovecraft's, and interestingly, has a real human dimension because it's actually horror romance.
You're referring to Lovecraftian. You haven't let me finish.
Please stop speaking. Please stop speaking. Don't talk over me. It won't go well. If you're going to make a Lovecraftian pastiche, that's absolutely fine. That's your choice. But that is not the same thing as Chambers' work, and there's a very different emphasis. So I've got no problem with it being a Lovecraftian pastiche. But I think if you don't have a human element and interesting supporting characters, you're running the risk of it being too dystopian. The old ones are always going to prevail in the end and so on. That's just something to consider. Thank you.
Okay. Now, to that, when I mentioned Chambers, I was crediting him as the one who originally created the King in Yellow. That's the only thing I did with Chambers.
So you're saying
meaning that Lovecraft didn't create it, Chambers did.
So
and then I said Lovecraft expanded on it with different things in his stuff. I never said this was based on Chambers' work.
All right, fair enough. Okay, it's past 10 minutes. Thanks for presenting.
Thank you.
I'll let you know. All right, let's see. Okay, next we got DeWolf. Hello, DeWolf.
Howdy. Nice to be here.
Hey, DeWolf. Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you as well. Yeah.
All right, DeWolf. So which character am I pulling up here? All right.
Which one?
Nixon Lewis.
Nixon Lewis. Yeah. Here we go. All right. Interesting picture. Let's see. So, all right. I don't get to see the face, but I get to see a hat in the back.
That's right. The artwork was created quickly, because this character. If I should just start my pitch in, start your timer, whatever you want to do.
Go ahead.
All right. Because this character actually was incepted right off from the beginning from this contest. I heard what you wanted and that you want to be able to put him in, be used by other creators. And so I said, okay, and have some audience appeal, et cetera, et cetera. So what is that going to have to be as far as a character is concerned? And so I started creating a criteria that he has to have the ability to travel. And not just travel to get around through different books, but travel within worlds, possibly dimensions. Right. And he also has to interact with other people, and like the big boys, as well as maybe some normal heroes. And I don't want him to outshine the other protagonists from the other books as well. And then I kind of threw in something else, which was, what about it? What if he's a linchpin, and he's something because of this contest? How you want to make a character that he can actually show up in different books and almost be kind of a CGTM mascot, if you will. So that's where the Gray Man came from, because not only does he have to be someone that's in the forefront and is very powerful, but maybe he's in the background. Maybe he's just dropped into a panel or two doing something in some book. And that's all he is for that particular book that the creator wants to use. But he can be back there just as kind of a tease. And so what happened was, as I did this, I realized that I needed certain elements and what I could do for that. And so I knew he had to be kind of maybe an energy guy, and this weird idea of project of the Philadelphia experiment came to mind. And I said, what if you ever heard about the Philadelphia experiment, what if one of these particular characters, one of these scientists, maybe that was on board, he's a genius, so he can understand things. He can be the super sidekick of a particular book. So you can bring him into the book. He can help out your character. He's got a great intellect. If you need him to be an inventor to invent something, he can do that. He's gonna accumulate wisdom. So maybe he can do that and help the character out that way. And so with this this Philadelphia experiment, which I then changed to Project Eldridge, then he he gets shifted out of phase with reality, and he absorbs what they were trying to utilize, which is the unified field theory that Einstein had come up with. So all this energy basically goes into him, and it basically kills him. He's atomized, except his spirit and everything else helps keep him together. And he finds himself now journeying from place to place, where the only thing that keeps him alive, if you will, in existence, is great energy sources. So he's a weirdness magnet. He gets taken to the mansion of Gatsby, where magic forces, he's able to draw on those energies. And the one thing that then keeps him balanced is the fact that he has some amnesia. So he's got short-term memory loss. He doesn't exactly remember even the Project Eldritch thing. He's kind of lost for his first couple adventures, and he's out of time anyway. So he can have these adventures. We can find any place that you need him to be at whatever power level. You can kind of set him in there.
I mean, I understand that he's quite versatile, but if we said, okay, we're gonna give you some money to fund a comic book where he's the main character, what would that story be about?
Well, okay, so right there, I've hinted at in the beginning in the wiki, where he wakes up after a nuclear blast. So that's basically your nuclear tests in Arizona, or of his world. And you would have to, I would foresee starting with that nuclear blast and a little form of a man somewhere in there. As you turn the page, now we go from the fantastic of the nuclear blast to a regular guy. Regular guy now, he's kind of lost. He is that Bruce Banner of the Incredible Hulk, where he has to find a job, and he's a regular guy. Maybe he already has that job. He's a gardener someplace. And then he encounters Roswell, because that's an energy source. So he's drawn to Roswell, and because the government is now after him, he then has to fend off basically the men in black. And he can actually succumb to his wounds. So he can die, but this energy source is going to keep him from dying. And it's going to whisk him away to some other world, in some different area, where that energy source reforms him again. It brings on more of the memory loss effect. So he has to kind of start over his life again. And he ends up being almost, and as I came up with this idea, I realized it's kind of quantum leapish, where he goes from area to area, he helps out people. And so in the meantime, there's also there's another anomaly being from this same event that blames him and scientists. He's like a soldier on board the ship, or a seaman, who now blames him. And so he's being tracked through, not just by men in black, but also by another, we find out later on, another entity that's also a weirdness magneted towards him to get rid of him. So that's where we're going with that. And like I say, I think the big part about his book, about this character, is seeing him in other books, linking them together, and then his own book comes out, and to where you start seeing, oh, that's who this guy is, and he wears the gray suit, kind of blends in lots of areas. And any other questions? Okay, there's no other questions. Then I'm going to continue on. So,
well, don't, because you've given us more than enough. So he, I think he's very interesting, very entertaining, but I'm really uncertain as to whether he would ever have his own comic. Even though he's a really, really, in my opinion, really well-formed character, interesting character, he definitely seems like hero support or a supporting character. So,
right.
The unfortunate thing then is, does he ever merit a comic book or graphic novel or web? You could probably do it in a web comic where he is more than the framing device. It's sort of like saying the Watcher in the Fantastic Four is a really good character, but the only thing that he ever became the protagonist of was the introducer of the stories in What If. It's not like the Watcher goes on adventures. It's like he's like sort of Alfred Hitchcock walking on in his movies. So even though this is a very meritorious character created with real distinction, he's not the star of his own story ever, which is great, but you'd sort of need, I could almost imagine a different probably entirely different character being the star of a book, and this guy being one of those recurring supporting characters that the main character's looking for or something. So that's a little difficult. But on the other hand, maybe that's a challenge you can rise to. Maybe you can find a through line that's really clear that would justify having this character effectively be the star of a book in which he doesn't really ever have the main focus or doesn't have the main focus for a long time.
Go ahead.
I hear you, except for the fact that his power base is defensive, right? He takes damage, he absorbs energy, and that helps heal him up. He can burn some of that energy to become stronger if need be, and then in time he'll learn magic and blasts and whatever else. But right off in that beginning, especially in that first book that you need to introduce the character, that's where his power levels are still fairly low, and he's a common man. And that's where you reach your common audience, because now you have government entities, the MIB, have been searching for him because they know something's gone on. So that's where you have your MIB, your government agents, your people out to get him, and he's on the run. And people connect with that. And so he has to fight his way away from them, and then, of course, encounter the bigger anomaly, the other character out there that has powers similar to his that he also has to fight against. So that's where he can star in his own book while still gaining powers and abilities through other people's books, absorbing their energies. Eventually, I could see him getting to the point of a final issue several years down the road of starring in CGTM books, where he becomes more godlike as he comes to this realization. He loses that idea that his subconscious is blocking out this terrible phenomenon of what he's gone through, so that he awakens to that, and he now understands everything he's gone through. He's understand the time when at some point through the nuclear blast he's been able to see the Big Bang possibly, which of course he immediately dies and goes someplace else again. And through this understanding, he realizes he now has ultimate power to change everything else in the world and solve all these other stories, and the realization that he doesn't have to, because all these other superheroes exist, that the world in and of itself is a good place, and then that's where he elevates himself to nirvana, heaven, or etc., and that would be the end of his story.
That sounds like an extremely unsatisfying ending. I think if you pull it off, I think the challenge here would be to make the world very interesting, in the same way that some Marvel books in the Silver Age and Man-Thing and Swamp Thing both had characters that couldn't speak or interact normally with other characters and would not be able to have a love interest. So it became a series of superhero soap operas where you have as you were saying, like these fugitive shows where someone's on the run. One of the things to remember about those sort of episodic stories is you have little low-level dramas each episode. So rather than this escalation to godhood, your challenge again is going to be the supporting characters that people need to care about. Rory Richards in Man-Thing, the Citrusville setting, or the supporting characters in Tomb of Dracula or Werewolf by Night, and so on. So with that one caveat, I think this is an excellently drawn character, a very well conceived character, but you've got the problem of the who takes the centerpiece, and their power escalation worries me.
All right, and we're out of time on that one, but thank you very much, DeWolf.
Certainly, thank you.
Thank you.
All right, let's see. Next, if we go on in alphabetical, the next would be Flying Fox Pro. Hello.
Howdy.
Hello.
Hi, Fly Fox Pro.
All right, so my character is Novak Ademic.
All right, Novak. Oh, no, I misspelled that. Sorry.
It still came up as the top one.
Oh, darn. All right. Okay. There we go. Novak C. Academic. I feel like he should be a student.
Maybe.
All right. 5 minutes. Go for it.
All right. If I was going to do just the back of the box kind of pitch, it would be this. When a mysterious baby is left on his doorstep, Novak must decide if he will put aside his pride, embrace an old enemy, and wade into battle against supernatural forces for the sake of the child and maybe for the sake of his own soul. So that's the sort of
Okay.
the tiny little pitch there. But if I was going to sort of describe the character, he is a businessman who works in agriculture. He owns an agricultural company that's sort of making waves and is really changing how farming is done. So he's on the forefront of an interesting sort of tech, not exactly the normal tech that we would think. And he's also a huge jerk. He is aloof and mean to his employees, and he is not somebody that anyone wants to get close to. There are rumors that swirl about him. Some might be true. One of them is that he's a vampire. Others a murderer. There's even a particularly nasty rumor that he's a demon escaped from hell. But everybody knows something for certain. He has a particularly violent temper. And so when this mysterious baby is left on his doorstep, just everybody around him, including himself, wonders, why me?
Okay. That was 90 seconds. You can keep going.
All right. So basically, his story is going to revolve around finding out who this child is. Are they important? Does it even, does it matter if he helps them? And then obviously his emotional journey to embracing someone that he hates in order to possibly help this child.
And tell me about this child.
All right. This child is left on the doorstep with just one word on it, which is the, pinned, basically, the idea of a note pinned to the orphan's lapel telling you all about the child. And in this case, it's just one Greek word, which means nobody. And so the mystery of the story is him finding out, why would someone leave this child on my doorstep, and what makes this child unique once I find out who they are.
Okay.
Does anyone try and take the baby off him?
Yes. So the baby is going to have it is going to be a unique child. He is going to have to fight people that are trying to find the child for their own means. And as he sort of wades back into this world that he left many years ago, he runs into old enemies, not just ones he has to team up with, but ones that have it out for him, that want to see him crushed finally after years of beating them or having victories over them. And so he's going to have those conflicts that arise from having to protect this child. And
is there any legal conflict? Like, do the authorities try and take the child off him because he has no claim over the child?
I hadn't really thought about that, but it could be a plot point.
And is it a little boy or a little girl?
It's a little girl.
Okay. And also with his agricultural company, I found that quite intriguing. Do they do horrifying things like Monsanto and so on, or is it just more sort of vague mega corporation?
Of course they do. It's a huge agricultural tech company.
Right, right.
They're involved in all the kinds of things that are wrapped up in that. And one of the reasons why he's picked is because he has this kind of knowledge of not just agricultural, but biotech and things like that in general. And so he's sort of an outsider to the main industry of where this child might be coming from, which is a biotech corporation. And
okay. Right.
then he's chosen as sort of this known entity that is tangential to biotech.
All right. So the baby's left on his doorstep.
Yep.
And he's got to find out kind of the mystery behind the kid.
Yeah.
And there are like mysterious forces that are out to get the kid. Right.
Yeah. So there's mysterious forces that are out to get the kid, but it goes beyond So you have the business aspect. You have people that want the child for their physical, earthly gain, if you will. And then there's also these supernatural forces at play surrounding the baby and the importance or possible non-importance of the child.
Okay. And I mean, is there a villain? I haven't really heard you mention a villain.
So there is basically multiple sides in play for the future of the child. So there's not like a central villain. His conflict is more internal with, is he going to care about the situation when he has historically not cared about things like this? And so there will be villains, the biotech company where the child is from, the various supernatural entities that want to control the fate of the child. Okay. These people are going to crop up and try to take the baby away from him. And his conflict is not only against them, but also against himself.
Okay. So some people in the chat are saying this feels a bit like Omen.
I wouldn't know. I'd never seen Omen or read it. So.
Okay, fair enough. All right. Well, I mean, we've still got 3 more minutes.
All right. So there's been talk about power levels and vulnerability and things. And so basically, if I read his abilities section I included on the wiki, it says, when Novak gets angry, he explodes in a violent rage. His strength is enhanced and he seems all but invulnerable to pain. But that's not invulnerable to injury. So, if you imagine sort of Rocky at the end of Rocky 1, he's got the tar beat out of him, but man, he sure endured that pain. It doesn't look great, but he got through the fight. And that's sort of the idea.
So just in his background on the wiki, it mentions that one thing is certain, he has a brother. Does he play into this?
He does.
As an antagonist?
As the old enemy that he must embrace.
Okay. Interesting. All right. That was my only question.
All right. So wait, run that by me again. The old enemy that he must embrace.
It's his brother.
Okay. Okay. So his brother.
Sort of Cain and Abel.
Cain and Abel. Interesting concept.
All right. All right. I mean, and anyone else got questions or stuff?
That was mine.
I guess for me, a lot is going to be tied up because, a lot is going to be tied up in how well you can craft the mystery. So, like, what is the hook that's really going to make me care about whether he can solve where this child came from?
Yeah. I don't have to think about that. The hook of the mystery, yeah.
I like it. I like the mid-level power level. I like the human interactions. I like the mystery. And I like the fact that he's a little more well-rounded and sophisticated as a character. Like, he isn't, Lucifer or anything. He's just, apparently anyway, a really bad guy. And the baby on the doorstep, that's a 1930s type trope, which is, it's interesting to see that. And it's also interesting not to have a black and white dualistic good evil thing in it. So I think if you can explore that depth and make the world well textured, have a few different, like you were saying, a few different competing groups, that would be good. Have you given any thought to competing companies and corporate world stuff for this?
I have. They're not as well thought out as they should be at this point, but there definitely needs to be at least one central company that is involved in his line of thinking, in his line of business, the agriculture, and then also the biotech company.
All right.
Excellent.
Awesome. Thanks for stopping in.
Yep, thank you.
Thanks.
Cool. And then next we have Thomas. Hello, Thomas.
Oh, yeah, I'm up.
You're up.
Hey, Thomas.
I was almost not ready.
Wait.
You've been sitting back there for
You
how
know,
long now?
I wasn't sure what came next alphabetically, but
Yeah, I'm about to run for bio break real quick. So you have a free 60 seconds to sit and prep. I'll be right back.
okay. One thing I was actually wondering is my brother really wanted to be here tonight, but the thing is that he can't make it. And I was wondering if it would be okay for me to pitch his thing too, or if it's just
Nope,
mine.
not at all.
All right. I just got mine anyways, so.
Fair enough. But just wait for Preston.
Is there going to be another pitch stream in the future, or just this one?
I think you should just ask Preston all of those sort of questions.
All right. I figure it would just be the one tonight.
Do, 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 do,
Yeah, Preston should have left us with some music.
That'd be nice, as long as it was copyright free.
Oh, of course.
do, 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 do.
The girl from Ipanema.
The Muzak version.
Dun, 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 dun. Dun, 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 dun. Corona. Dun, 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 dun. He's back.
I'm back. Hello, everyone.
All right. Yeah, one thing I was going to ask is there going to be another pitch stream in the future? Or is it just
Sure. Yeah. I mean, there'll be more.
Okay, that is cool. That is cool. You mean for like future projects or funding, or for the same one?
I mean, it depends. Like, you know how.
Start the clock, dude. Start the clock.
All right.
This isn't fair. This isn't fair on other people who want to pitch.
All right. Well, hold on. Before I start the clock, let me reset. What's the character I should find?
Flare Strand.
Flare Strand. Okay.
Just right under F.
Flare Strand. Okay. All right. Boom. Okay. So there we go. We have them. All right. Go ahead.
And the pitch is just right off the page. I mean,
all right.
Fine, right? So Flare Strand is Kea Bracken, who was a child prodigy who always wanted to be a great superhero, but also had aspirations of being better than the other superheroes, always being told as a child that she could be better than all of the superheroes. Any superhero she wanted to be, she would be better. So she graduated from high school and college at an early age, kind of Doogie Howser-ish, I guess. And she reinvented another hero's super-powered armor suit. And then she joined America's premier superhero team, sort of like the Avengers, seeking glory and fame and receiving much of both. But the beginning of the first story and really the central arc of her entire character is right off the bat, she faces a brutal defeat from a villain she was not prepared to fight. And she loses both of her legs and being massively scarred, but more traumatized from the humbling she received from losing a fight for the first time ever, believing that she could never lose a fight or be horribly injured in this way. And so she immediately becomes disillusioned with the whole childhood dreams and superhero team and superheroism as a concept and the superhero community. And then the entire world, she becomes very black-pilled, I guess you could say. So she ends up siding against her own superhero team, basically turns into a villain that came from, within the superhero team that she started off with. And she breaks the law to free the villain who defeated her so that she can have a rematch on her own terms, and becomes obsessed with defeating him and refighting the same fight, trying to counter every move that he pulled in the first fight so that she can win it by doing the fight over but better. And undoing what was done. And even as a child super genius, she still has naive ideas of being able to unring the bell of this trauma. And she begins to disappear into a fantasy of making it so her trauma never happened if she can just defeat this one bad guy. and it's ultimately the whole story, the whole arc, and the core of her character is that she's a sort of former superhero turned villain who's she's a super genius, but she was still naive about who she was and her worldview, and it leads her to becoming a villain. And her path through this, then, where she'll have to realize and decide what kind of person she'll want to be, whether she becomes a villain full on officially, or if she finds a way to turn a corner back, or some kind of mix of both. And that's it.
Okay. All right. So she's got superpowered armor.
Mm-hmm.
And then what is it that the superhero team that she's doing? Well, what is the moral, ethical thing that makes her go, "Oh, wait, this isn't right. I'm going to free the villain"? And
well, it's in a way, there's just the fact that she was defeated. She loses, and she is so horribly injured, and she just becomes really alienated and angry with the former superhero team for leading her on into thinking that that she could do anything. All the kind of platitudes that she suddenly finds sickening because she lost a fight.
So she's, I guess, what I would call a transgressive hero. She's kind of a villain in other people's books.
Yeah, well, she does the point of this opening story is she straight up becomes a villain.
Okay, all right. Still got another minute on your pitch time before we get to questions.
Are there any questions then about this?
What's the nature of her injuries?
She had like a building dropped on her. It just collapsed onto her.
No, the actual physical injuries or mental injuries that she suffers. Not the nature of the accident, but what is she left like? Is she paraplegic, quadriplegic? She lost limbs?
It's basically like paraplegic because she loses both of her legs. I think I was going to say above the knee, but I think below the knee technically. And she then needs the suit in order to even walk at that point.
Got it. So was she originally conventionally pretty or attractive? Like was she a fairly conventional superhero character, very attractive?
In a way. She's not ugly or homely, but yeah.
Right. So her body image is affected by what's happened to her.
Yeah, especially because one thing I was thinking, and I haven't fully decided on this, but like one side of her head may have been really scarred badly or burned, so a bunch of her hair might be missing, at least initially. But I don't want her to be completely disfigured facially.
Fair enough. And is her former team chasing her now because she's broken the law? Or?
Yeah, they sort of have to fight her then in the following the following issues. But at the same time, she sort of knows their weaknesses too, of course. So she knows.
Don't they know hers though?
Well, in a way, the sort of her super genius plan is she thought ahead of time to disconnect her suit from any because the suit is basically some other superheroes, but she reinvented it so they can't sort of track into it. And, they can't take it over or anything like that. So she can cut herself off and just go complete stealth and go off the grid and all that stuff.
Right.
All right. What are the major story elements you think of a 24-page comic book?
For like the first one, the first issue is it starts with a sort of 2-page spread of all these, the young hopeful and her, coming up and joining the superhero team, and she's a genius and all this, and then cut to immediately the big injury, and all of a sudden her life is just, the way she sees it, her life is destroyed. She thinks it's just destroyed forever, and she's like, oh, this, all of it was bullshit, that kind of thing.
Would the issue basically end with her freeing the villain?
Yeah, that's exactly where the first issue ends. Is she frees the villain and then goes to square off with him, so that the next issue then would be the actual fight between her and the villain.
Okay. All right. I mean, seems fairly straightforward.
Mm-hmm.
Questions?
How do you so she's She's young, black. Because we don't have a picture.
Yeah,
so.
I couldn't settle yet on an exact design because I know generally what she'll look like in just her regular form, but as far as the suit, that's kind of the most important thing to get nailed down before having a visual design decided.
Okay, cool. Alrighty.
I kind of wanted to give her afro puffs.
Afro puffs. All right. Cool.
All right. Yeah, very, very clear. Thanks.
All right.
Thanks, Thomas.
No problem. I hope that people enjoy it. And, even if I don't get picked or whatever, I think this could still draw some interest from other people, maybe artists or anyone who might want to see this made.
All right. All right. So I will, thanks for stopping in. So, boom. And then, sorry to cut you off. All right. Tony. Hello, Tony.
Hey, how you doing?
Doing all right.
Hey, Tony.
Hi.
Yeah.
All right, Tony. Which character should I be looking up?
Cat Kid.
Which one?
Cat Kid.
Cat Kid. Okay.
Cat Kid. I read this one earlier.
There we are. Okay. So, all right, Cat Kid. Your time starts now. Go for it.
All right. Cat Kid is a human who was born with the ability to shapeshift into a cat-like form.
Right.
His powers caused him at a young age to experience anxiety and sexual repression. His wild instincts left him isolated. And when he was 13, he almost beat a bully half to death and resulted in a brief imprisonment. But upon his release, he vowed to use his powers for good. At age 17, he dropped out of high school and spent the next 2 years traveling the country, helping people with their paranormal problems, hunting harpies, werewolves, whatever. This is a world where these things are public knowledge. Rather than the advancement of technology disproving these myths, they instead confirm them. But he is eventually apprehended by the organization known as the Office of Supernatural Investigation and Response, or SIR. They hire him on the basis of him being a talented vigilante, but wanting to keep him in line. He's partnered with SIR agent Sam Dillon, and they are assigned as a somewhat buddy cop relationship to various cases until they are tasked with their first serious or morally conflicting case. Their moral oppositions put their partnership to the test as they track this character down. Cat Kid has the ability to obviously shapeshift, but he also has superhuman strength, able to lift 800 pounds with relative ease. He's able to leap 3 stories in a single bound, and knowledge of martial arts, uses teeth and claws in combat. At a disadvantage, he is also snarky, temperamental. He has a propensity to act without thinking. He has a propensity to get distracted by cute girls, unless the situation is immediately urgent. And also, he's a carnivore. He's not able to eat vegetables or bread without getting sick.
Okay. Still got 3 more minutes.
Let's see. I mean, this character is pretty. Oh yeah. He's also able to see and smell ghosts. He's able to cause direct physical harm to them without need of a spirit energy ability or weapon. One of his most coveted abilities is his resistance to magic and psychic abilities. He cannot be directly affected by magic spells. He's immune to mind control. He's immune to mind reading. He has a healing factor that allows him to recover from flesh wounds and broken bones in hours rather than weeks or months. And he wears a magic collar that allows him to maintain the form without needing to concentrate or flexing a muscle, as he describes it. Normally, he would need to focus on keeping this form, but the collar acts more as a switch. But the downside to this is that he can only stay even with the collar, he can only stay in this form for 5 hours. And injuries sustained will put strain on his form. Sleep will replenish it, but if it drops, his energy drops too low while wearing the collar, he'll weaken to the point he cannot move. If he wasn't wearing the collar, he would simply revert back. But the collar is sort of a trade-off for that stability, and yeah.
What is the conflict of the story?
The conflict of the story is his relationship with the SIR. He is normally a freelancer who lives by his own rules, lives by his own schedule, but suddenly he is forced to cooperate with this private but still very strict organization. They have a strict protocol with dealing with supernatural entities. He's sort of given this, he's on a short leash, so to speak. And there's a major conflict is he still has the desire to leave. There's nothing serious holding him back. He doesn't take their rules that seriously, but at the same time, his relationship with his co-workers, Sam and later other characters, he grows fond of them, and he starts to question what his place really is. Is it being a freelancer, or is it working a stable but still restrictive job with these people? The organization of which he's not fond of, but the people grows fond of.
So it sounds like his conflict is kind of internal, like he's trying to find his place kind of thing?
Yes.
Okay. All right.
And later, when they are dealing with the supernatural serial killer, the moral implications he has with his agent, they have very different outlooks on the situation.
All right. Now, internal conflicts are tough because there's not as much to show. If it was an external conflict, like, oh, there's a bad guy, well, then they can show the fight. But the internal conflict of him trying to find his place is, it can be a little more challenging. And we're dealing with a comic book where you got to put up some cool stuff. So how do you think, visually, how are you going to recommend that this conflict be shown?
There are conflicts that they face. Monster of the week, I guess you could say, until they face the longer form narrative, or the serial killer plot that is near the end of the series, or 12-6 issue, somewhere around that length. There will be plenty of action that shows both the severity of these villains that he faces, while also highlighting his own personal views on the situations that he's in. But there is plenty of action. There's plenty of interpersonal character stuff to balance that out.
Okay. So for what would the plot of the first issue be?
The plot of the first issue involves Cat Kid fighting a giant fish monster. Near the end of this fight, the SIR intervene and apprehend Cat Kid. He's then tasked with tracking down another supernatural entity under the SIR's guidelines. And it shows, during the buildup of which, and around at this point he's paired up with Sam Dillon, the agent, it shows the contrast between the previous fight, or the first fight we see, and the more bureaucratic leanings that the SIR has toward the subject, their attitudes toward the subject.
All right. Questions?
Are there other weird animals? Is he a unique being in this world?
There are forms of were animals that are not identical to his ability, but there are shifters, people who can turn into actual animals, like a person who could turn into a golden retriever. There's skinwalkers like that.
And SIR has him as an agent.
Yes.
Is it implied, or is it shown that there's a team of them, or that there are other agents, sort of other entities that they grabbed? Or?
It's shown. Yeah.
Okay. It sounds very clear, and it sounds like it's very well plotted, and it doesn't seem like it's got a power inflation problem. So, yeah, I find it interesting. Yeah, it's good.
And so does Johnny Torch. Questions, Vicky?
No,
Ah,
I'm good.
Well, we
Thank
still
you.
got 2 minutes, or
I could talk about some of the other paranormal
go
species
for
that
it.
are in this world.
Yeah.
There are orcs and elves,
Okay.
and the backstory to them is that they are actually the descendants of escaped mental patients in the asylums from the 1700s and 1800s that came into contact with paranormal energies in the forest. So they're basically a subspecies of human that evolved over the last several hundred years.
Right.
Ghosts exist, demons exist. And demons in this world are extra dimensional spirits that have to possess a human being in order to exist in our world. And the way that works is a person needs to actively accept a demon into their body in order for the demon to come into existence. And this can lead to very horrifying results that prove dangerous for Cat Kid and his comrades.
So is his partner Sam Dillon? Is he just human?
Yes, he's a human with supernatural abilities. He has the ability of spirit energy projection. You can shoot spirit bolts from his hands, some telekinesis, and also he has the unique ability of clairvoyance, which allows him to determine or to target a person based on their last known location. It works like a mental radar, so he can send out a mental picture of the person he's looking for within a 5 square mile radius in order to find this person.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
All right, Tony. Well, thanks very much for coming in and presenting.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you.
And I will let you know.
All right, thank you.
Thanks, Tony.
Mm-hmm.
All right, let's see. We have Mecha Ziploc.
Hey guys.
Hey, what's happening?
Hey, Mecca.
So, which character should I be searching for?
Arthur Byrne, the Moon Beast.
Oh yeah, you know what? He's going to be making an appearance in Guinevere and the Divinity Factory issue 4.
I'm so very excited about that. We haven't had a chance to talk about it yet.
I haven't really had a chance to talk about that. So, look, this is not going to cut into your time. I'm just going to talk about that for a minute, and just the whole philosophy of the shared universe. So, I'm sitting here writing issue 4, and I decided that the pages I presented the last time I presented Guinevere with the whole trial and everything, I decided that was all crap, and I deleted all of it, and so now I'm redoing it, and I'm like, you know what? I need a minor character, and I decided it needed to be a man because I already had so many women with Guinevere being the main character and Viviax taking up so much time, and I'm like, I need a man. So I'm looking through, I'm like, why don't I showcase somebody from the wiki? And I was looking through, I'm like, all right, the only character I can find that will fit, in a gothic kind of setting is Arthur Byrne. So I'm writing him into the story, but I don't know whether to make him white, black, Mexican, because he did not. You just show me what he looks like when he's a bear. I don't know what he looks like when he's a dude. But
I have some pictures of that actually. We could show some concepts that I've done, but I don't know how we could do that other than.
Well, if it's not on the page, you can't show it. But,
okay. Well, I can send it to you after the fact or after the show. But I do have some concepts for what his human form would look like.
Oh,
well, you can at least add his race onto the info box on the character page. In fact,
yeah, he's in his late 20s. I guess we'll talk about that later. But I guess I should get to the pitch, right?
Yeah, start.
Okay, so Arthur Byrne is a were-bear character. He's a man who's lost everything. He's divorced, and he doesn't have a whole lot of meaning to his life.
Right.
And the reason I'm writing his story is the conflict, rather, is I want a character who has had his body invaded. It's been harmed by outside forces. And this is going to be the story of how he takes his life back after that trauma. It's about taking his life back from those who took it from him. The enemies he's going to encounter in his story are going to be vampires and aliens. And I chose those two because if you've read any alien abduction encounters, one thing that comes up in many of these cases is a theft of bodily elements. Men have been reported, to have. Well, I don't want to get too deep into it, but a lot of stuff focuses on the sexual reproduction. So in a way, it's a bodily invasion, a rape of somebody. So my Arthur Byrne character is going to be somebody who's had their life taken from them, and his story is going to be just taking it back. It's a story of positively affirming life. It's a story that I want to tell about doing heroic things and recovering and making the most of it after somebody has transformed you. That's why I went with the war bear part of his power set. It's the body horror. It's something of a self-insert, sure. I don't know if I look like a bear, but
you are a little hairy.
A little hairy. But it's if you ever wanted to do heroic things, if you've ever wanted to be a hero, this is the story I want to write for that kind of mindset. It's embracing life after trauma. It's taking what's left and making something positive of it, and that's the best thing I could write about, I think. And he's not going to be all powerful. He's going to be strong enough to lift a fire truck, but he's not going to be strong enough to punch a god in the face, I guess you could say. He's going to it's going to be that rage, it's going to be that anger that a lot of us feel and are silent about when things have been done wrong to us. And it's going to be about getting justice. We're going to beat up vampires. We're going to fight against this telepathic alien menace that's taken what life we can from us. And that's what I'm trying to do with this character. So it's going to be internet shaming. I don't know. Well, it's anyone who's been wronged. This character is going to do what he can to take it back and make it right. And that's the story I'm trying to tell.
So, what's the central conflict of the comic book? That's it.
It's the central conflict that comes from your body being transformed by outside forces and your life being invaded by outside forces. Okay. And we cannot help that we are transformed by these traumatic events that happen to us. But what we can choose to do is to make the most of it. I don't want to go too deep into something you said previously, but it was kind of like that Japanese art where they take a broken piece of pottery and they put it back together. Arthur Byrne is very broken during the story, and he puts himself back together as best he can with all this male primal fury that our society shuns in such a way that they're shamed for it. Well, he chooses to embrace that power, embrace that anger, and use it to his own benefit. And even if he's angry, he's going to do heroic things regardless. And he's going to have aliens and vampires, and both of those things take elements of life, and they take them from people, and we're going to take it back. So that's the central conflict.
So it sounds like again an internal conflict.
It's internal, and that's where the body horror aspect and the transformation of a werewolf, or in this case a werebear, comes from. Right. It's not anything groundbreaking in that regard.
Victor feels that you purposely created this character just to appeal to me.
No, but I think we've had similar experiences, and I think that's why we've been able to communicate as we have. And I'm a veteran. I have PTSD, so maybe there's a bit of that leaking into this character as well.
Is there going to be some humor?
There'll be a little bit of humor, sure. Okay. Arthur Byrne is not he's not a hero at the start of the story, but he becomes one, and there's a lot of stuff that gets there. So yeah, it's going to be a monster book. So it's going to be dark and a little sad at times, but I think in the face of adversity, all we can do is kind of yell about it and smash things and get over it. Vampires, aliens.
Yeah. Oh my. so it's a story about Pan. I
don't know if there'd be much humor in it, but we'll see. I'm planning this to be I don't think 48 pages would do it justice, but as it comes along, I think 60 would probably be about right. Okay. I've got a beginning, middle, and end planned out, but I'm filling in the details as we go.
Okay.
But for as far as appearing in Guinevere, I have some notes for you, and I think you'll really enjoy using them to an extent.
Cool. Questions?
I mean, it's obvious that you've got a passionate agenda that this character is drawn from. I think it's crucial that you do not preach. It's got no place in comic books or storytelling in general to politicize or basically just have a character like a glove puppet while you're pushing a particular political or even social viewpoint. Use the passion that you've got about an issue and draw from it, but don't just directly put it onto the page. Let it inform the type of story that you're telling. And how is this character different from you? Like, people have said it's a self-insert. Where does it vary from you? Where does it depart from you?
Well, the only politics I'm going to put on the page is what I believe to be the virtue of strength and to being hurt and to do heroic things. If you've ever suffered any pain protecting somebody, if you've ever been in a fight, that's the preaching I'm going to do, the value of being strong. So, I mean, I've had my fair share of scuffles, but primarily this is a character that's going to, be leaping great distances. He's going to be breaking through walls. He's going to be grabbing aliens and vampires by the foot and swinging them overhead as he, thrashes them about and claws at them and punches them. So, I can't say I've done many similar things to that, but that's the only politics I'm going to be preaching, is the politics of strength. And we're going to overcome these magical creatures through sheer force of will. So that would be the preaching that I do in this book. And we're going to show that through physical means, something that you can aspire to do yourself.
As you suffered listening to some of these pitches.
Yeah, well, I'm sorry if you didn't like mine, Alka, but she thinks I'm a nerd anyway. But yeah, it's going to be
I think until somebody's tried to pitch for themselves, they should probably keep quiet about that. It takes a lot of bravery to expose yourself like this.
It does.
If it was similar to anything, it'd be like a Hulk story. A lot of similar feats of strength and things like that. It's going to be a lot of punching, a lot of throwing, a lot of body slams, a lot of catharsis in that sense. And it's a bear, so yeah. And his only superpower outside of his strength is olfactory bulb. The bear has the greatest sense of smell in the animal kingdom, so that's going to factor into the story for the fantastical elements of it.
I got another 90 seconds. Questions, anybody? All right, Mecca, anything else you want to say?
No, I just want to tell heroic stories about people put into extraordinary circumstances and choosing to do the right thing at the cost of pain to themselves.
Fantastic.
So that's the story I'm going to tell. And thank you so much for having this and allowing me to put my stuff out there. And I think this is a great thing, and everyone should contribute to the wiki even further.
Exactly.
And it's very good on you for doing this, Preston.
Thank you. Well, thanks for coming on. And yeah, all right. Thanks, Mecca.
See you guys.
Catch you later, Mecca.
All right. And we have 7. Are you there, 7? Hello? 7.
Hello, Preston.
Hello.
It's good to finally speak to you. I don't live stream very often, so I've got this swollen uvula, and I just want to give a shout out to Mega McCheese. He's very inspirational to me.
Greetings and salutations.
Awesome.
Hey, so
I just had to do that. Woo, okay.
Okay.
Let's see. First,
you got to laugh at Tim Lynn. You did a good job warming up the room. So there you go.
Thank you very much.
Which character am I looking for over here?
I believe it's called the White Lily. No.
Yeah, that's my story.
It's the Black Hollyhock. Hollyhock. Yeah.
Does not come up. All right. Here, I'm just going to go to the main page because I know what she looks like.
It's probably because it's got V in front of the name. So
It's going to be under T for V.
V black.
Oh,
Oh, there it is. Yeah,
I
you
just-
have to put in D black. Okay.
I just made it easy and I opened the character page to start off with.
There you go.
you are the bear.
And
Matisse.
I
know.
love this artwork. I think this artwork is cool. Did you do that?
Yes.
Oh, fantastic. Oh, cool. All right, 5 minutes starting now. Go.
You know what? I uploaded a new image a little earlier.
Yeah.
The full figure. Yeah. Okay, so yeah, let's get to business. Owie, the Black Hollyhock, in a world that's at war. This is a story about love, about loss, about life, about war and peace. It's about what exactly constitutes one's identity and all that molds us and shapes us, through experience. It's a story about trauma, about survival, about letting shit go. Okay, and all that aside, it's an action-packed thrill ride that'll knock your fucking socks off. Okay.
All right.
First and foremost, I'm a true believer that in any entertainment medium and industry, for that matter, the number one priority is to entertain. Okay, so that's where my mind is. That's really where my heart is in this endeavor. That said, there's been quite a few philosophical underpinnings. I guess some observations of human nature, the human condition that I would like to explore, to toy around with, to kind of dig myself out of, I suppose. But if you read my page, I put a lot of time, a lot of effort, a hell of a lot of edits into trying to make the most comprehensive and entertaining presentation possible there. So because of that, I highly encourage everyone to read through that, to endure it, please, because I'm not interested at the moment of rehashing all of that or reading it to you. Instead, I would like to kind of give you an idea of my vision, what I have in mind with this. First of all, it's going to be a 3-act play. Okay. Each act is going to be a 24-issue comic. The first issue is already written. The script is already written, and the second two, the following, they're outlined as described on the wiki there, but they do need to be fleshed out. And let me just go ahead and give the disclaimer that I have no freaking illusions of being a writer. In fact, I've never written anything as far as a script beyond some shit on Twitter. But that said, I'm an artist. I'm an illustrator, and I approach comics as a director. So my goal here is to make movies on paper. And so that said, this first script and really the entire story are a series of like really, really cool scenes that I've imagined and have attempted to string together to be the most entertaining, action-packed ride possible. That said, I have done a crazy amount of research to make it as grounded in reality and history as possible to maximize the suspension of disbelief. Right. So that, to get maximum engagement with the audience, right? So you can really feel this character, the drama, the thrill, the love, all of it. So that said, the first issue, I'll give you kind of an overview. The first act is the mission.
All right.
Okay, so our main character here, she is groomed to be a warrior, and her entire existence is based, her entire purpose in life is based on her cultural national identity. Okay. No, I don't want to make this, as Mecca eloquently pointed out there, I don't want to make a political comic, but I'm definitely I think it's unavoidable to make a good story without getting, touching a little bit of politics. But what I'm aiming at is to look at the human condition from a very abstract point of view, and that is, I believe that all of us live somewhere on the spectrum between the two extremes of being a pure individual and a part of a collective. And wherever you find yourself on the spectrum, you're making sacrifices. There's a price to be paid. You can't be a father and still and live for yourself, right? And so, kind of the dilemma that Aoi, the main character here, that she faces throughout the story as she grows and degenerates and regenerates, is she places all of her self-worth, her entire identity, in an external source, in a collective. So in that sense, she's very much an extremist, and again, but that's not really what the story's about. That's just where she's coming from, and that's kind of what happens to her, So as you were inquiring earlier about external or internal conflicts, hers is definitely a combination of both, right? Because she's at war, she's on a mission, she's a soldier, right? So in that from that perspective, from that angle, right and wrong, good and evil, they're a little nebulous, especially when you're at war.
Sure.
So when she's bound and determined to her duty, that takes precedent above all else. But
all right, so
throughout the story,
we're now to the question and answer time.
Okay, yeah, please, freaking rein me in here.
All right, so
okay.
what is issue 1 going to be about? So she's been picked by now and kind of reading through the wiki, because you made her. Isn't she a villain?
Okay, well, see, initially she began as a villain, as an antagonist, as a foil, really, to the White Lily.
Right.
Okay, so yeah, in a way, the first issue during her mission, she is presented as a villain, although she's the main character. Okay, I know that's a little sketchy, but I believe it'll work out once, as the story develops. You get to kind of climb into her head, and she becomes very sympathetic, right? Okay. But essentially, the first issue is the mission, and her entire mission, is to prevent the atomic bombing of Hiroshima and Nagasaki.
Right.
They have intel that U.S. is preparing to do it. That is her goal. That is her mission.
Now, the Imperial Japan did traditionally tap women for warrior roles. Why did they pick her?
Well, a lot of that, I think that's sufficiently explained in the wiki.
Okay, fair.
I mean, well, or maybe it's not. Maybe that's something that you and I and Vicky and Zombie and whoever else is certainly invited that can kind of flesh that out a bit. But basically, her X factor is that she's got this incredible amount of determination, and I guess not to get too woo-woo, but ability to manifest and to shape reality according to her will. And that gives her a very unusual, even supernatural edge that is readily identified early on in her life. She's a superhero in that sense. I mean, it's a comic book, right?
All right, let me just ask for questions.
Okay, yeah.
So, what's the nature of the kaiju that she manifests?
Yeah. Okay, now that's going to be the third act. So real fast, let me just give you a brief overview. The first issue, the first act, that's her mission.
No. I just want to know what sort of kaiju manifests.
Okay. Fair enough. You asked me what the nature of the kaiju is?
Yeah, like are they elemental, or are they big lizards, or robots, or what?
They would be monsters. Okay, like the most scariest, nastiest freaking monsters I can possibly imagine. Probably based on like microscopic dust mites and parasites, because those things look just freaking crazy, evil alien. Imagine those things like titans, stomping around.
Yeah, that's good. And in the modern day, like she survives to the modern day. Is that correct?
She wakes up in the modern day.
Right. So in the modern day, is she still an Imperial Japan era philosophical outlook character, or is she adapted now to the modern Japan?
Okay, no. That's the thing with this character. As an extremist, she doesn't adapt to anything.
Right.
And I think
so. Does she face any legal sanctions from the modern Japanese government?
Maybe, but the thing is that at that point she's kind of a something of a phantom, So she's not really dwelling in any particular place. She's just at that point she's more of a supernatural form, almost like a deity in a way.
So would modern Japan denounce her or support her patriotically just because she's of Japanese origin?
That's a really good question. If you want to get really interesting and frankly realistic about it, they'd probably act according to their own self-interest at any given moment, which would involve exploiting her for all that they can, right?
Right.
And, but the thing is that she's ultimately loyal to the values that she pledged her allegiance to. Okay, but that said, even though in her eyes, modern Japan, the modern world have degenerated or strayed away from those values, she still has this motherly love. And that's the thing about her; she's really a maternal character. Although she has.
And are you going to confront Japanese appalling war record in World War II, the many atrocities they committed? Is she ever going to have to discuss or consider that? Because if she's a typical Imperial Japanese officer, then she wouldn't make any apology for it whatsoever, of course.
Exactly. And again, that's what makes her a little ambiguous, especially in the first act, in that it's war, man. All's fair in love and war. Which I think would make for pretty interesting, ethical dilemmas there to kind of, make observations on. Yeah, again, I'm not gunning for any particular political point of view. I'm more interested in kind of exploring various perspectives, but with the emphasis on entertainment. Like I don't want to kill this thing with a serious essay on geopolitical history.
No, but I mean, she's a World War II fighter pilot from an Axis power that never went through the equivalent of true denazification. So she's effectively Captain Tojo, Captain Hitler type character, which has never ever had to confront or apologize at all. And now she's so powerful, probably no one will ever be able to force her to. And modern Japan is still conflicted about its war record, because although they have their year zero where they ignore it all, some of them do, the comfort women issue and the terrible biological experiments and so on. It would be very strange for it not to arise in this story at some point, even if it's just foreigners saying, what an absolute nightmare. This personification of Japanese war atrocities, and she's so powerful we can't stop it.
Yeah, you're right, and that's exactly what she is. She is a nightmare, especially in the third act. I mean, she's straight up a monster. She's a portal that is summoning these monsters, which, if you read through the wiki there, they're probably her own subconscious manifestations. She's totally out of control in the third act, and she wouldn't even consider ethical ramifications or anyone's opinions about anything at that point, because at that point she's pretty much a force of nature, and
all right.
That's a great note to end it on.
We are out of time, but thanks for coming in. I really love the character, and I appreciate you presenting.
Cool. Thank you for saying that.
Thank you.
Thank you, Seven.
Yeah. And by the way, you get really good artwork, and other people are certainly going to need artists. Do you have a page rate if like somebody's like, hey, I want you to work on my comic book?
No, negatory, because I am working on my comic book. However,
okay,
you know what? If I like your idea or your stuff, or I see that you need some help, dude, I will happily pitch in. But
fair enough.
No,
All right, awesome. All right, thank you, Seb. Take care.
Cool. Thank you.
All right, so we had 10 people present tonight, which pretty neat. We're gonna narrow it down here, and then we're gonna pick winners and losers. So I'm gonna try and be positive about the whole thing. And in the spirit of that, I do want to reiterate that everybody that got up here certainly had a lot of courage, and I appreciate that. And like to me, it's a reward just to put in the work and to get the feedback. But still, it takes a certain amount of courage to stand up and go, this is my idea, and open yourself to criticism.
Definitely.
Yeah, and towards that end, I have been messaged, and out of the 10 people presenting, one person has withdrawn. So now we only have to decide between 9. All right, so the 9 we're going to have to pick from. All right, so let's start with, and I'd really kind of like to probably cut it in half to around 4 or 5. That's what I'm thinking.
Okay.
All right. So, all right. So we got Zoe by John Lamont. He started us off. Vicky, what do you think?
I like.
Oh, wait. By the way, just one thing. I certainly encourage audience participation, particularly in the form of super chats. Go ahead. Somebody's like $20. I like this one. I'm like, okay, it's in.
I see.
Go ahead.
I think old Zoe's cute.
Okay.
I get a little lost in what how Zoe and her sister are gonna confront each other, and who can actually win if they're both so all powerful. So that kind of smacks it a little bit for me, but I don't know. I'm still pondering everything because it was a lot to take in.
Zombie.
I found it quite muddled, way too powerful. There's no conflict whatsoever I can see of any interest. I really dislike the conflation of the Nimrod Semiramis stuff with the more comic booky elements. It's not good enough just to say they're Celestials. There's only 2 of them. I want to know what Celestials are. All of these things require distinctive explanation, and you've got to make it your own. Yes, there's a historical or biblical Nimrod. It's like Chris Tamulovich has got his own version of Ra, the sun god or alleged sun god from ancient Egypt. You've got to make it your own. So I think Zoe is underdone, and the characters need to be redrafted with some kind of weakness in mind. If they're all powerful, then they have to have some means of being compromised, so there's no hazard. They just crash through their own story like a Bible parable or something, which not really generating the conflict for me. Which is not to say someone's not going to find it in the shared universe wiki and use it in their own comic. I'm restricting this to the contest, just the contest. That's all.
Yeah, Zoe and Lucy kind of bashing against each other. If they're the only ones that can get rid of the other, you might as well just put them in a room together at the beginning of the book.
Yeah,
I got a $5.
It's a bit too conceptual rather than, do they lead armies? What? So yeah, so that one for me, yeah.
Oh, and by the way, Kaiser says, "Can I submit to the wiki?" Yes, the wiki is just going to keep growing for all the people who want to keep. And look. I just looked through the wiki. I'm like, I need a male character in like a gothic genre, and I found Mecha's character. So, if you put it out there and I like it or somebody else likes it, then they might use it. So, but yeah, the idea is you can keep adding to it. Okay, next was Turbine by Moby.
Vicky?
I like everything about it except for the Trump Hillary thing.
Same. Same.
Yeah. I mean, I like the idea of the president being kidnapped, and is he really kidnapped, and a possible villain working with them, and I like all of that stuff, and I like the armor suit, and but that's the only thing about it I really just
to me, and maybe it's just because I've given myself road blindness writing parallel Earth designations. But if you've got a universe where Trump and Hillary are in one cabinet, it really is worthy of spending a few pages explaining how that parallel world has come to be that way, because in our world it would never have happened. So it would be, and it would also add to the Byzantine plotting and planning aspect about, well, there's such and such a thing means they're in the government together. Game of Thrones, sort of struggles, I suppose, is the way most people would see it. And that's why there might be this fake kidnapping and so on. But overall, I thought it was solid, with or without that element. That element might count against it, but it's rock solid. I don't want to insult it by saying it's standard superhero fare, but I mean that as a compliment. It's comfortable. It's nice to read, that sort of thing. Well-executed stories like that should always have a place in American comics. So for me, that one goes in.
Okay. Yeah, I agree. I think that one, I'm going to move that one down. All right. Samuel Erebus by Larry Holder.
In. He nailed it. You like that sort of Spawn type character, or you don't. I don't particularly personally like them, but he nailed it. It's clear the Titans can function in human society, so you can have normal depictions as well as supernatural or superpowered depictions. I think it's rock solid again. Definitely in for me.
Yeah, it made a lot of sense, and the character's kind of cool. And it didn't feel. It felt like he knew where it was going. Yeah. Okay. And who was the good guy, who was the bad guy, and how they were gonna finally smash against each other.
Dixon Lewis by Todd DeWolf.
For this competition, he's got to go out as a character that even I would end up using in a comic book or webcomic. Absolutely in. And a classic example of how the shared universe wiki outside this contest will continue to grow and have more characters added to it that don't necessarily merit their own book. I hear his argument about the slow build. I just think comic book, nah.
Yeah, I loved the whole Philadelphia experiment thing, and he bounces through time back and forth. But he's just, it needs something else. He needs some more of a purpose.
Okay. All right.
But I like it. I really like it.
Yeah, same. Absolutely.
Yeah.
All right. Novak C. Adamic by Fly Fox Pro.
Definitely in for me, and it illustrates the difference between this and the previous character, because this one could almost have a sideline in his own comic at times, but he's a very strong, well-drawn character. The arrival of the babies, real 1930s film type stuff that's gone out of fashion. And he's a heroic anti-hero, classic protagonist. So, yeah, very clear, really comes to life. And I like the fact it isn't Batman versus Joker, Superman versus Lex Luthor, that it is a world of Lex Luthors and more morally ambiguous people, sort of a multi-sided corporate conflict. And then he has this child of destiny and he has to wrestle against his own unfortunate nature. I think it's good.
Okay.
I like him.
All right. Flamestrand by Thomas Royloop.
Yeah, I'm right in the middle about this, so I would say neither in nor out for me at the moment. But I'll let you two go through it.
Yeah. How about you, Preston? You haven't said anything about any of them yet.
I will reserve my judgment till the end.
Okay. I like it. I kind of feel like I've read some of it before. And I mean, I was as we're reading the description, I really felt that it's getting late, so my brain's kind of
I understand.
halting on character names. But Riri, it felt kind of Riri Williams.
It did feel like that a little bit, yeah.
But yeah, so but I mean, I still like it. I'm just not sure.
Right.
You know, the whole her going straight villain from at the beginning book. I don't know.
All right. Cat Kid by Tony S.
Solid in for me. Wears its influences on its sleeve, but very clear, understandable, good motivation. There's actually a gap in the market for a straightforward book like that at the moment, if that makes any difference. But I actually like the character, and it's well thought out, well plotted. Doesn't suffer from power inflation, and it doesn't suffer from too many different professions and powers at once. It's very clear. So in for me.
I like the world he created with it. I like the idea of this, of course, that sort of Men in Blacky supernatural police force. I dig. And it's a cat.
Yeah. So you want that one in as well.
Yeah.
Okay. Arthur Byrne by Mecca.
My only concern is the platform, agenda, politicization. If it's a book with a crusade message, that's going to wear out its welcome really quickly. But as a character, very, very solid, very interesting, really cool, desperately needed. There isn't really a modern Hulk type character that isn't like literally a pastiche of the Hulk. So because of the political stuff, I'd put it right on the line, leaning towards in, but right on the line. I'll let you two decide. And let's face it, it's a strong enough character, well enough written. It will go on to have a long shared history anyway, whether it wins this contest or not.
Yeah, I love the Werebear. I dig his origin story. I wish I had more of an idea of what exactly he's gonna be doing. Just roaming through the universe fighting bad guys. Is that it? Is there gonna be one? What happens once he captures the alien? Once he's taken care of the big bad alien, or will it always be there, right out of his grasp? But I like it. I really do like the bear. I'm sorry. Yeah.
Black Hollyhock.
She is so freaking hot.
She is. Yeah.
I must say. She's really freaking hot.
That was a katana and a luger. That's not a luger, actually. That's the Japanese.
Nambu. Nambu. Yeah.
Yeah, Nambu, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. She's very, very hot. I love the concept. I'm not sure. I'm not sure where she goes once she gets into the modern day, but I'd like to see it. But yeah, I really dig her as a character.
Zombie.
Highly distinctive looking, complex textured background, moral ambiguity. The artwork is very influential over decision making in this case, but then it's a visual medium, so it should be. Modern day just seems to lose its focus, turn into a couple of different things that don't necessarily go together very well. But that's a tiny point. With the depth of it, it's easy to have this as a shared universe character, so it's not going to suffer if it doesn't get in or doesn't win. But I would still vote for this one to be in, because it is easily strong enough to support a first issue or something, and you can just imagine the variant covers and all the rest of it with this character, can't you?
Okay.
So it's definitely ready for prime time.
So right now, the people you want to see scripts from are Black Hollyhock, Turbine, Samuel Erebus, Novexi Adamic, and Cat Kid.
Yeah.
And we have.
And I'm right on the line about Flare Strand.
Yeah,
Like-
and we've got a couple of maybes here with Arthur Byrne and Flamestrand.
Yeah.
And they are really close, both of them, in my opinion. They would only need like one more thing added or subtracted, just one thing to bring them into that perfect lock.
Okay.
Because you can see from the ones, like, for example, I support, they are all really easy to do.
Right.
Elevator pitch as well as first issue cover, what would it look like, what's going on in the first couple of pages sort of thing, you see?
Mm-hmm.
That just my thinking.
Okay.
Yeah.
Do we want 7 people? All right. So let's see. How long if we did 7? All right. So we could do 5 people advancing, and then you know what? We would just have to clean up the writer's stream and go through more than 2 scripts an hour, which I think we can get. All right, 2 scripts.
Well, when's the next character pitch? If we're having another one of those for the next one.
How about 6 weeks from now? Because it's going to take us to go through these scripts, I think.
Okay, so knock out the 2 doubtfuls. They can come back in 6 weeks for a second chance. And I think from now on, anybody who's that close, we give them a second chance. We don't give them 9 chances or 10, but a second chance when they're that close.
Right.
And that really, both of those, I want to say, are really good.
Okay.
And it's just the sheer quality of the others, which unfortunately cross the finish line just ahead of them.
Fair enough. All right, so Zoe by John Lamont, Nixon Lewis by Todd DeWolf, Flamestrand by Thomas Royloop, and Arthur Byrne by Mecca. You are invited to represent in 6 weeks, either this concept a bit further refined or an entirely different concept, whichever you would like. And meanwhile, we would like to see scripts presented on the writer's stream for Black Hollyhock, Turbine, Samuel Erebus, Novexi Ademic, and Cat Kid. So I will let them know.
Awesome.
Excellent.
I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah.
Congratulations to everyone who made the effort to pitch, whatever the outcome. It takes real guts to do that.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't think I could have done that.
Yeah.
And I'm not giving anyone.
And I realized I was really quiet, but I didn't ask a whole lot of questions, but I did read the entire wiki earlier today, so I was kind of fresh on everybody.
Yeah. Fantastic. Well, I'm looking forward to seeing stuff. I will
it's 10 pages, 7.
Yeah, it's 10 pages. So and what I need everybody to do, if you've been invited to present, if you haven't already, join the Writers Discord, which I believe there should be a link to that down in the description. And then you can post your pages there. And there's $2 is not enough to get 7 people in. Sorry, but
I think he's rooting for 7.
Yeah. 7 people to advance, right?
No, 4 7.
Well, 7. Good. I'm glad he did. Okay. There we go. 7. Cool. There we go. All right. Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. So I think this was a success. I liked the variety of ideas. I think they were, certainly well presented. And look, we've been building up a shared universe that didn't even exist like a month ago, basically. So I think this is really cool. Fantastic. But yeah, there will be a link down in the description of this video, as well as all the writer stream videos, to the Discord. So go in there, and you can. There's a tab for scripts. You can look over pages I presented, pages other people presented, to get an idea for how to format them and all that good jazz. And,
so just real quick for a little bit of clarification. So in 6 weeks, when we do the next pitch stream, that's not just the ones coming back. It's new pitches as well.
Yes.
Okay.
There will be new pitches as well. Exactly.
All right. Awesome.
All right. Thank you very much, everybody. Thanks for tuning in. This has been Press Pull to Pocket Jacks Comics. Thank you very much for your time.
Have a good night, everybody.
See ya.